There's a new documentary on Syd Barrett called "Have You Got It Yet?" And I've been dying to see it. I've known about it for a while, but It came here and it played once. I definitely didn't know about it, or wasn't. It wasn't on my radar. I wasn't actively checking dates or anything when it did come here, or I definitely would have been there. And it's gone through, various showings throughout the United States and Europe, and I think based on what I just saw on the schedule, that it's kind of run its course of screening. So the question I have now is, when can we watch this thing on video? I don't want to pull down some illegal copy. I'd really like to contribute to it and purchase it or stream it or whatever. But I want to watch it, and because I haven't been able to watch it, I've found myself not that long ago. I played the Madcap Laughs, and it kind of got me on a Syd trip. Going into Syd again, really wanting to watch this new movie, which I was unable to, and then gradually watching a bunch of outtakes from another documentary. I think it's "Wouldn't You Miss Me?" It must have come out in the early 2000s. I know I saw it, but I should really look for that one too to scratch the itch. But they have a bunch of outtakes from the interviews that made up that movie, and you can watch the full interviews. It's quite fascinating. Watch interviews with Roger Waters, David Gilmour, Rick White, Rick Wright, Nick Mason, and Peter Jennings, and a couple other, like another manager and some people that were friends with him, roommates. You can watch all this stuff in its entirety, not cut down, right? So I found myself just really, really learning a lot about a guy that I feel like I've already know quite a bit about. I've always been kind of fascinated with that story. For those of you that don't know, he was the original like mastermind, original songwriter, original creative force behind Pink Floyd. Uh, they had a few anyway. Arnold Lane and maybe Apples and Oranges, although that might have came later. And before they had singles, before they had debut album Piper at the Gates of Dawn, which you can see behind me. And then he was not able to. Syd Barrett was not able to handle all the performances, all the publicity, going on television shows, miming lyrics. He had a mental breakdown, and he influenced a lot of future Pink Floyd songs and albums once Roger Waters became kind of the de facto leader after Syd was no longer able to function in Pink Floyd and function as a musician outside of Pink Floyd either after a while. There's various reasons that caused it. Some people think that he had schizophrenia, and doing a bunch of acid was definitely not going to help anything. And apparently, he did a lot of LSD. People were giving it to him when he wasn't aware of it. Although David Gilmour's like, Syd would never have turned it down anyway. You didn't have to trick him into taking it. But there's other theories that say that he just couldn't handle the success. He couldn't handle the fact that his little band was becoming absolutely huge, and he didn't enjoy doing all the things that were necessary to promote it, playing show after show after show, doing radio interviews, doing television appearances, lip syncing to songs. He got to the point where he would just stand there and he would just stare into space and not do the lip syncing. And there's one song that Roger Waters does it, and I think you can find these clips. I haven't been looking for those so much, but I know I've seen them before. But he basically had a mental breakdown. I mean, black holes in the sky, the way that Roger Waters sings about it on "Wish You Were Here," which is also an album that is dominated by him, by remembering him. "Shine on You Crazy Diamond" in the title song are tributes to Syd Barrett and this original founder that they had, who was only on one record, a handful of singles, and had a breakdown. Originally, they thought he would be kind of a Brian Wilson type character, and he would write songs for them while they toured, but then he wasn't really able to do that either. The title of this new documentary comes from a recording session where he was trying to teach the band a new song, and it seemed like every time that he would play it for them and they would learn it, he would play it a little bit differently and say, "Have you got it yet?" And then they would kind of learn the new way. "Have you got it yet?" And he would do something different. "Have you got it yet?" And the joke ended up kind of being on them because the song was called Have You Got It Yet? And I think he was intentionally messing with them, or that's what a lot of people think. But there's just such a whimsical thing about his early songs. Some of the songs on Piper at the Gates of Dawn as well, like the gnome and the scarecrow. Bike's a hilarious little song. Piper seems like kind of divided between these like crazy kind of freak out like rock instrumental psychedelic type things, not necessarily all instrumental, but where the sound is kind of panning hard right, hard left, and it's almost designed to give you a trip, maybe not a so good one. But it's fun. I've always thought that Piper's just fun, and it's almost at times, and I hate saying this, it's almost Spinal Tap-ish. At times, it almost goes into parody with the psychedelia, but great little songs in there, real songs that could have been singles or standalone. And then there's also, the astronomy domine and interstellar overdrive and stuff like that. But I really like the songs that he's got, and I think they're really really solid. And apparently, what I found interesting when reading, or not reading, watching these various interviews, some of them were like an hour long, was that he had two other singles with Pink Floyd that were supposed to come out. One was Vegetable Man, and one was Scream That Last Scream. Now, I thought for sure, now at the time of this too, these songs were not available, though they were talking about how they would probably be available soon. And this was in the early 2000s, like 2001. But I always thought that Vegetable Man was a song that Syd did on one of his solo records, but I am wrong. I was wrong. It's not. I know Vegetable Man from Robin Hitchcock, who covered it with the Soft Boys. That's how I know that song. But he does such a faithful job. He's such a Syd fanatic. He loves Syd. He does such a faithful job that I honestly thought I knew Syd's version. But anyway, now, it's a lot, all these years later, there's a box set that came out a while ago called The Early Years, and it had these two songs on it, which I'd never heard. I'd never really heard that box set. And so I found it and streamed those songs and was really pleasantly surprised, especially Vegetable Man. Scream That Last Scream seems like another kind of psychedelic overload kind of song you'd hear on Piper, possibly. But Vegetable Man it's an interesting song. I think he's talking about himself, unfortunately, much the same way he does with the last song on Saucer Full of Secrets, Julia Dream. And it's kind of sad, but it's a little bit more whimsical and fun with Vegetable Man. But really, I mean, calling yourself a vegetable, kind of serious. And I think of this period a lot. I think of like he was, by all accounts, super sociable guy, on top of the world, and then sort of lost it all, and ended up as Robin Hitchcock says, becoming Roger for the rest of his life, moving in to Cambridge and eventually living with his mom and his sister, and having nothing to do with his former self. But it's been interesting for me to go back and listen to not just Piper, which does sound pretty amazing still, but also listen to those singles around it. Early songs like I'm a King Bee, Lucy Leave, some other ones, Apples and Oranges, See Emily Play, that's a great one. And just experienced it in kind of a more straight, especially those early songs, more straightforward, and start thinking about what he might have sounded like had he kept going and didn't have all these problems. But of course, we'll never know that. But I haven't found myself necessarily listening to too much solo Syd, other than what started with this with Madcap Laughs, but instead going back and listening to a lot of those singles. But yeah, so I'm real curious about this movie. Let me know if anybody knows when it's coming out. I would love to stream it or go to the theater and see it again if that ever happens. But I find it kind of hard to believe that it's still not available to at least purchase digitally and watch. But definitely want to watch it. Have you got it yet? I'll do a follow-up on that whenever I am able. But I want to hear people's thoughts. I'm sure some people that have watched the movie are also watching this channel. So please leave a comment. But yeah, thanks everyone. Appreciate it.